also would like to welcome you to our community and university and hope that your visit has been pleasant and we enjoy having you here. This being an environmental seminar, Marvin asked if I would come, even though I'm not an architect, and share with you one aspect of our environmental control here in our community, which in this case, what we're going to be talking about today is kind of a case study in sharing with you the condition of our stream 20 years ago, what it took to clean it up, how we cleaned it up, where we're at now, and where we hope to go. We have been fortunate enough the last few years to do some work with municipalities in other countries with a finite resource that we all have and we all need. Although 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, only 3% is fresh water. Of this 3% fresh water, almost 2% is locked in ice caps and glaciers. Approximately 0.6% is groundwater, leaving only 0.0001% in rivers and 0.007% in lakes. The rest is in soil moisture and atmospheric water vapor. Rather than trying to depend solely upon increasing the freshwater supply in third world nations and the availability locally, the municipalities will need to better manage and protect their existing local water supplies. With the concept that each person on this earth has a fundamental right to clean water, local governments must take the lead in the protection of their water resources. For example, effective industrial pollution control facilities cost 1 to 5% of initial capital investment cost. Cleanup costs needed to correct those same problems cost 100 to 1,000 times the original industrial development cost. As many cities in the third world countries head towards industrialization, the increased demand for clean water on the local level for the industrial processes will also increase. As agrarian communities shift to this industrial base, and as urban population increases, the need for water resources will escalate on the local level. What I'd like to do now is come back to Muncie, and we're going to go back to the early 70s. And if you do get a chance to go out and take a drive along our river, please do. The wildlife has come back, and it's a fairly pleasant place now. The series of slides in the first set that I'm going to show you, you will not find it. It's not out there now. The Bureau of Water Quality is a interdisciplinary local water pollution control agency that now handles everything within the White River. Stream pollution, industrial pretreatment, biological monitoring, wastewater plant testing, research, emergency response teams, and river wildlife habitat restoration. The river wildlife habitat restoration has started about 4 or 5 years ago. We are the first major community on our stream. So 20 years ago, we decided to clean up our stream. And it didn't really matter what anybody else was doing. Our segment would stay clean because we were the first ones on it. We don't have a Muncie above us. It starts as a bubbling spring out of the ground about 40, 50 miles above us, comes down past our large reservoir, through our community, on down past Anderson, through Indianapolis, and so on. The single most important discharge at that time and yet today is the wastewater treatment plant. After we all use our water, after we take showers, take baths, after the industries use it for industrial processes, after restaurants use it, we treat 20 million gallons a day in our wastewater treatment plant. Our river at low flow has 1.2 million gallons a day, so we have no dilution. We have zero dilution in essence. This was what it looked like 20 years ago. Definite degradation of the White River. $20 million has been spent. Tertiary filters, third stage treatment, chlorination, dechlorination. This is now the same discharge to the river 20 years later. This is after a rain event. You can see that the discharge from the large wastewater plant is actually cleaner than the river water. We'll get into that later. Our single most important problem now in water quality is agricultural runoff. It's no longer industrial. It's no longer municipal. Those are under control. Industrial discharges used to line the bank of our streams from a variety of sources. We are a heavily industrialized community. We are a town of 72,000. We have a major university, but we also have 40 tool and die shops, 10 plating firms, a steel mill, 2 foundries, battery plants, transmission plants. We are a heavily industrialized community. In the early 70s, our community decided that we needed to do something to clean up our stream. We don't have mountains. It's the only natural resource we've got. What can we do? So we created the Bureau of Water Quality. It is an organization that has 13 full-time people. They're chemists, biologists, bacteriologists. It is a testing and enforcement agency. That slide is not upside down. The one that was on before that was orange was an industrial discharge going directly to our stream when our stream was red, yellow, green, orange, high amount of chrome, cadmium, lead, cyanide, a variety of those. This is now 20 years later. That's a reflection from the sky. That is our river in that same area. Chrome discharges, platers, we have 10 plating firms in town. Of course, we as a society with our purchase power decide what products are going to be produced when we buy cars with chrome bumpers, and we buy nickel-plated golf clubs, and we buy zinc-coated umbrella supports. We with our purchase power decide what's going to be produced. Therefore, there is waste from those manufacturing processes. This discharge had 240 parts per million. Stream limits at that time were 0.05. Same discharge 20 years later. Another industrial discharge. This one contains cyanide besides iron and a variety of other metals. And iron is not a toxic one, but that's the reason for your discoloration. It'll also do another thing. Besides being a violation, besides being toxic, it'll affect the aquatic life in your stream, the fish populations in your stream, and the type of recreational value that you've got for that stream. Many sports fish will use eyesight for feeding habits. Many of your, quote, rough fish like your carp will use smell for feeding habits. When you put these kind of loads into a stream, be from an industrial source, be from an agricultural runoff, be from a combined sewer overflow, when you increase the sediment loading in there, when you take down the visibility, you automatically affect the recreational value of that stream by affecting the aquatic life of that stream. Oil discharges, we used to have several of these coming directly into the White River. Now, oil acts a little differently, and we've all heard of a variety of major oil spills. A fair amount of the oxygen in a stream or a lake is taken up from the atmosphere. Once you have an oil spill, you've put a blanket on that water, you've stopped that oxygen uptake, and the result is a fish kill. Same discharge 20 years later, industrial pretreatment has been installed. Our agency issues a permit to every industry in this town to discharge. We have 18 automatic samplers. They're out on the community on a regular basis. They have to pull samples. We pull samples to monitor. Quarterly reports are filed. Enforcement actions are taken when necessary. Most are able to be worked out around the conference table. 20 years of working with the industrial community, we have issued one fine and never been to court. I've mentioned pretreatment. What is pretreatment? It's physical, mechanical pieces of equipment that an industry installs to remove chrome, lead, copper, nickel, zinc, filtration units, clarification units, acid neutralization units, belt presses, filter presses, a variety of pieces of equipment. This is what it looks like. This is a medium-sized industry in our community. You can find this kind of equipment all over our town, and an investment of about $270,000 for that. Car wash discharges used to go directly into our streams, and of course anything that you would come off of all the hydrocarbons, oils, greases, the phosphates. This was pre-phosphate ban time, so obviously the phosphate levels in our streams were very high. Not all water quality problems, and a large portion of water quality problems, are not industrially related. We seem to have this syndrome of all water quality problems obviously are industrially related, and they're not. Sometimes they are the most glowing ones. Here's a case. This is animal kill waste. This is blood out of a sanitary sewer, down a bank, and into a stream. Now that's into the same stream that chrome discharge was into, which is a tributary to the White River, which is in a municipal park within our city 20 years ago. Definite public health problem. The problem was here, old sanitary sewers, built in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Hydraulically can't handle the flow. The community grows. The industrial complexes grow. New systems were not installed. Overflow, hydraulically, the systems can't handle it directly into the stream. Raw sewage discharges. When we first started, we found 200 illegal raw sewage discharges directly to the White River. Since that time, a little over million a year has been spent for a variety of local sewers and separating sewers. We, like most municipalities, still have CSO problems. Unfortunately, during the 40s and 50s, when the pipe was put in the ground, one pipe was put in, not one for stormwater and one for sanitary and industrial waste. They were put together so that, again, hydraulically, they can't handle it. Those are being separated. For our town, 72,000 population, we're looking at $40 million. We're taking it in chunks of a couple million a year. That's all we can afford. Same discharge 20 years later. There were 200 of these. They're gone. When our forefathers came to the Midwest, this was swamp area, this was forest area. We clear cut it, we turned it into farmland. It was swampy. We put in red field tile, we drained it. Now we can grow our corn, we can grow our soybeans, and we can have our agrarian community and lifestyle. But during the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, we started to develop it. We took the same farm, we put 200 homes on it, we put a septic system in the backyard, we put a well in the front yard. It was a Pewamo, it was a Blount, it was a Miami soil. It had too much clay, it didn't work, they blew up. Water will find its natural flow source into the red field tile, into the corrugated metal pipe, and it's a Midwestern problem across the whole Midwest of these kinds of situations where you've got your housing areas, the septic systems have blown up, and there's no local sewers, and they are going to the local tributaries. We do use dye. This is green and red fluorescein dye, same thing that an eye doctor will put in your eye when he's looking for an abrasion. It runs $150 a pound because of that. However, if we've got 200 homes out there and only 30 have septic systems that are not working, which 30, obviously dye testing. We are a response agency. We have responded to approximately over 20 years, 40 fish kills and or acid oil dumps, those type of situations. We used to have to respond in the old-fashioned method. This is an oil spill we had on Little Killbuck Creek, which is just north of our community. Built straw dams. Takes 5 people about 3-4 hours to build one dam. We had to construct 5 of those with the amount that we had. Very time-consuming. We, of course, now have the modern equipment. The oil booms, chemical absorbents, one person, 5 minutes, hooking 10-foot sections together, and we can make a dam across any section of the White River. Automatic samplers, I mentioned that earlier. We do have 18 of those. They are around town so that we know what's going on at 2 in the morning, Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, the 4th of July. We're running approximately 1,000 analysis a week through our laboratory right now. Also, manual sampling. Field biologists are out there taking samples from individual tanks, grab samples along with the automatic samplers. This is a zinc processor we have here in town. Has 5 10,000-gallon tanks in there. This is just some sections of our laboratory. We do have atomic absorption units, ICP plasma units. Very fortunate, have very good staff, good equipment. The ICP plasma we can scan for all 144 trace elements. That information then is taken, computerized, put in, do we have any problems? Has XYZ company got a violation? If they've got a violation, we are a regulatory agency on the local level. From an administrative standpoint, without going to court, we can levy a $1,000 a day fine violation for each parameter. If you have XYZ industry that violated for 3 parameters for 30 days in a row, you've got a potential for a $90,000 fine in that 30-day period. But again, that's the last resort. That's not the first resort. 20 years, 1 fine, no court cases. Just in the last 5 years, through local enforcement actions, letters of violation, enforcement compliance schedules, sitting down around the conference table, just in this last period of time, our industrial community, just for Muncie, has invested a little over $4 million for new and additional pre-treatment. The end result is here's what we've got going to the river because of that money that has been spent. Since the early 70s, the zinc's been reduced going to our stream by 79%, lead by 97, nickel by 94, copper by 79, chrome by 94, and cyanide by 23. And the reason cyanide's 23 is we didn't have that much to begin with. We've only got 3 cyanide users in town. Total toxic organics, of which there's 111, and that covers everything from PCBs to 1,1,1-trichloral, which is used as degreasers, to the hydrocarbons, to a whole variety of organics. We used to have 14 that were going. By 1990, we were down to 2. Now we're down to 0. Disposal costs are very expensive now. You require the industry to put in the pretreatment. What was going down the sanitary sewer or into that stream is now going through a treatment process that we saw earlier. Some people don't want to spend that money. End result is there is illegal disposing that goes on. Fortunately, around here, it's minimal. This is a canister that we found about 24 months ago out by our bypass. We did fingerprint it. It did not come from our community. It came from out of town someplace, a midnight disposal firm. We had to pay $1,000 out of our own pocket to have it disposed of properly through the proper methods, channels, and taken to the destruct house like it should be. So this is becoming a serious problem. White River at flood stage. We, within 24 hours, can have a 10 to 14 foot variation. We are on the upper headwaters. This is back to land management problems, farming too close to the streams, not leaving the green belts, not doing the contour farming, a variety of factors. End result of a lot that we've looked at are fish kills. They're only an indicator. We have not had a fish kill now since 1985. Before that period of time, from 1972 to 1985, we had 10 fish kills for a variety of reasons. Only one was what could be classified as a natural summer fish kill. Low flows, very high temperatures, dissolved oxygen went down below allowable limits. It went down to about 1.5. Your aquatic community starts to run into trouble when you get below 4. All the rest are attributable to man-made problems. We now have a viable, healthy, exploding population going on out here. We have a good smallmouth, largemouth stream. There's perch, there's crappie, there's channel catfish. It's becoming quite a good recreational facility. We made a head count on a Sunday afternoon. There was 250 people doing a variety of things such as biking, jogging, sunbathing. We've constructed bike paths along the river. We do keep it mowed like a park. It is now a viable recreational facility. But in the early and mid 70s and late 70s, it was used as a dumping ground. It was a nice place to take anything you didn't want. We're all worried about the transportation of chemicals. This was a trail derailment here. We do have a response team again. Fortunately, this was aluminum sulfate. It brought the pH up a little. It was not toxic to anything. We did not have a fish kill, but it could have easily have been cyanide. We do have staff biologists that do a variety of biological stream work, from freshwater clams to fish studies, heavy metal analysis of fish tissue, TTO analysis of fish tissue for human consumption, age, growth, species diversity. We have 43 species of fish out here identified now. We have 34, 35 species of clams. We have over 30 range extensions on aquatic insects. We have a good, viable, diverse biological population in our stream, and that's what we want. Fish tagging programs, people call us, they catch a fish, it's got a tag. We tagged about 400 fish this summer. We tag only bass. We can do age growth studies, see how they're doing. We recapture them. We have a permit from the state. We electroshock. We captured about 10,000 fish last year. It stuns them, it doesn't kill them. We keep a few for lab analysis. The rest are re-released. Aquatic insects, good biological indicator of what's going on over a long period of time. This is a fairly new area for most municipalities. We started our fish, our clam, and our aquatic insect studies back in 72, 73, and 74. Wildlife has moved back in for a variety of reasons. We now have 3 beaver colonies within the city limits of Muncie, active, viable, healthy as of about 4 or 5 years ago. Our waterfowl population is exploding as of about the same period of time as the food sources are coming back. Canadian geese nesting, reproducing. The great blue herring, we have 4 nesting pair of great blue herring now. Last year we had this, for those of you that belong to Audubon or have bird watching as a hobby. This is a yellow-crowned night herring, not supposed to be found in this area. We've got it back 2 years in a row now. It's way north of its area. We have the green herons. We've built activity centers, bike paths. This is now our stream versus the first series of slides that were red and orange and yellow. This is our stream now. On the south bank, we've let it go wild. This is for the wildlife habitat. Mink have come back, muskrat have come back. The north bank is for human use. so that you've got a combination of both. This is an industrialized community. That stream was in bad shape. It needs to be used within our community by both. It is horse patrolled and it is used. This is in the middle of our community. This is not up in Wisconsin. We were fortunate enough to go to the UN a couple years ago. There was 200 people from around the world. We met for 10 hours a day, 5 days straight, and came up with a new organization and wrote a new charter for a new organization of municipalities to work together around the world, to exchange information, to work on technical information, to work on planning, to work on development. Some of you may be interested in contacting this organization on some various projects. The world headquarters has moved from New York to Toronto. There is now a regional network set up in Europe, and Muncie is fortunate enough to be one of the 3 founding charter sponsors of this organization, and we feel honored with that. And in conclusion, I would ask that as professional architects, that you be kind, gentle, and in computer terms, user-friendly to our streams and other bodies of water around the world with your designs. Thank you.